Just as you needed some time to digest the news of your breast cancer diagnosis, the people who love and care for you will go through their own version of shock. And as they look at you, secretly scared that you may die, they'll undoubtedly try to bury their own fear by figuring out how they can help you. Now, for women who've been quite independent all their lives, being on the receiving end of such care can feel rather uncomfortable, while other women equate being helped as a confirmation of how sick they really are. So if you're rather on the independent side and you happen to feel some underlying resistance to well-meaning offers of help, you may want to reconsider making it easier on yourself, because you'll get through this ordeal with much less stress if you just relax and let people in so they can support you. Not to mention the fact that stress itself is detrimental to your healing. Here's what Trish, a senior administrator, had to say in hindsight. She said, "I wish I could have let go of it enough to let someone else do all that calling to all those people I contacted to gather all that information I felt I needed to make a decision. Now I realize that one of the things you have to do is let people care about you. And I think that's one of the reasons my friends were so angry at me at first, because I wouldn't let them in." Here's what another woman said, and she's a physician who admitted that she didn't really make the best patient. Anne said, "This whole issue of having to ask for help really challenged my long-term relationship to the max. But eventually my own fear that I would die moved me past that, and so I began seeing the preciousness of simple everyday things. So my cancer really opened me up in a tremendous way to accepting the love and the care that people wanted to give me. But initially," Anne said, "that she found asking for help the most difficult, humiliating experience you could imagine. And she wished that her husband just knew what she needed and would just go and do it without her having to ask him." And of course, that absolutely didn't happen, Anne said. Instead, it shocked him to have her suddenly become so needy and weak. And he was heartbroken, and she said, well, I guess he felt like he was really in need of being helped. So this just put a terrible, painful chink in their relationship, where she felt she wasn't getting the care she needed, and he felt resented and unappreciated for what he was doing. Anne said if she could have done it differently, she would have had a different relationship going into the illness, because a lot of the turmoil was founded on what she and her husband brought into the crisis. Anne said, "If I could have felt differently, if it would have been less painful for me to ask for help, then perhaps some of this would have worked out differently. But I've changed," she said, laughing. "I found that it's just lovely to be taken care of." So if you have a strong relationship going into your diagnosis, then the good news is you will not likely have to endure the upset that Anne did. Cancer has this way of magnifying whatever already exists within the relationship, whether that be good or bad. And if it's good going in, most relationships are stronger by the time they come out the other side. And as you find your own balance for getting what you need, you may want to keep in mind what these two wise women have shared, remembering when you can that your diagnosis is as challenging to those who love you as it is for you, especially in the daily dealing with the disease. Now, having said that, there's no rules. There's only what you hope will happen and what happens in this wonderful process of living and loving. And sometimes you'll meet that challenge rather brilliantly, while other times it could be messy, even painful. That's the contrast that's part of living for all of us. It's part of the human condition.